What is up, y'all? My name is IR Trap God, and today we're going to be looking at the long-awaited breakdown for the map Bagra Fortress on Modern Warfare 2. Before we get into the video, I just want to say thank you guys for all of the support I've received on these videos. I just hit 500 subscribers last week, and we're already at 650. The channel is just blowing up, and I really appreciate you guys being a part of this community. As always, if you enjoy the video, drop it a like, and if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel so you can see future map breakdowns and other COD-related content. And feel free to leave a comment. I read all of the comments that come in, and I try to respond to as many as possible. So with that, let's get into the breakdown. First thing that we will be doing is just going hardpoint by hardpoint and looking at the popular callouts around the different areas of the map. P1 is over here between these trucks in the bottom right corner of the map. You have white truck up against the point that a lot of people love to hide in. You have bench over here. Roof is right above bench. And then you come over here and you have gate. You also have this building here that people call maps. This would be bottom maps, and then you go upstairs and it's top maps. You can also call out balcony for this. Top double windows are these two windows that people peek from up there. The double steps are the ones in the back here coming from this other spawn. And this building right here, you come downstairs and this is called art. You can also call the top area top art. P2 moves on over here to the gallows area. You've got double doors leading into the art building here. You've got back steps and then back truck, or 18-wheeler, I've heard it called. Stage is this platform in the middle. And then you come over here and you have these closed and open arches. So this one's called closed and this one's called open. Pretty straightforward. Heading on over to P3, it's going to be on the opposite side of the map in this courtyard. Entrance is front or big arch. You've got fountain next to the point here. If you head up these stairs, this area up here is called circle because it looks like a circle. One thing to note about this point is that trophy systems are super important because the point is wide open. You also probably want to have an AR sitting on the point because the biggest push is going to be coming from the front gate and you want to be able to hit those shots. Moving to P4, it's going to be back in the art building on the other side of the map in this area that is officially called munitions, I believe. This door back here is just called the back door. You also have 18-wheeler back here and back barrels that are nice to hide behind. There's also the forklift. And then if you come all the way to the back corner, this area is called back tree. You have single door at the top of double steps. This area up here is called top rails or stone or dark. I've heard a lot of different names for it. And then busting out this door here, you have the art balcony. Finally, looking at P5, it's kind of in the middle of the map in this blacksmith area. On the point, you have horse statue and anvil. Also next to the point is bottom maps, and some people call this green, I think because of that green light. Stables are over here that people love to hide in. Top single window is overlooking the point. And then this spot over here, I heard Scump call that spot nerd because it just kind of is a nerd spot that people love to abuse. Again, this is another point where trophy systems are absolutely critical. You can nade from any direction. If you don't have a trophy system on that point, you're probably not going to last more than 10 seconds. Let's get into some helpful tips and tricks around the map. Over on P1, these trucks are a huge advantage. You can go prone and see anyone coming from any direction. You can even shoot people through mid-cross. Also, this bench right here, you can climb up and then get on top of the little roof here. That's why there's a call out for it. And you can get on top of the trucks that way as well, which can also be good cover. This little cannon here, what you can do is climb on top of it and then get a nice jump set up. It takes a little bit of practice, but you can actually get onto the balcony outside of top art. You can also get on top of these boxes next to P1 and jump up to top double windows that way. In general, this top maps building has a ton of different entrances. You can climb up onto any of these boxes really and get up there. You can even climb onto this horse statue here and jump from there to top maps. So keep that in mind. You can also use this little staircase here and jump up to top single window. I see that used a lot in Search and Destroy. Another way to get into top double windows is to climb onto these boxes, and then you can jump onto this map here and jump into the window that way. Over in the courtyard, it's really common for people to spawn in this circle area. So what you can do when that happens is get on this ledge here and then mantle onto top balcony or top maps. Over on the other side of the map, if you jump on top of the 18-wheeler, you can jump onto this little map structure here and then use that to get up to top rails and surprise people. On that same side of the map, you can also jump up onto this railing here and then get in this corner and use the fence to watch for people coming through that flank. Another way you can get up onto that top art balcony is by using this railing here. If you get your jump right, you don't even have to do a mantle. You can just jump straight on top of the railing. Just some general advice for this map. On Hardpoint, if you're the core tack team, you're going to spawn in that courtyard, which is super far away from P2. And the rotations are pretty difficult if you let the other team get set up. So I see a lot of SMG players just run straight through top maps and then dive over to that wall up against the art building. That way you can get over mid-cross without having to worry about the other team being set up and just gunning you down as you're running across. Let's get into some nade spots. The first spot that we're going to look at is off of the defensive spawn on Search and Destroy. You're going to come up towards open and you're just going to throw your grenade over this wall here. What this is going to do is it's going to go over the wall and then it's going to fall straight down onto the back steps where the offensive team loves to sit. A lot of the times they'll have one person back there while one person runs up to the bomb, where they wait there until they know that it's safe. This next spot is over on the art balcony. I see Shotzzy doing this in a lot of his games. You come over to the balcony, get right in the middle, and then you throw your grenade at that telephone line. It's going to go over the building, and it's going to land directly on that staircase that leads up to the closed arch. That's good for if they're sitting there watching or if they're trying to climb up into that window. Back on the defensive side, another good option is to throw your grenade over this art building. I like to aim for that right corner. What that's going to do is it's going to drop right on top of the double steps from the other spawn. The nice thing about this one is that you can actually detonate that truck next to the spawn so that if people are kind of playing slow, they're going to get picked off by it. This last spot is from the offensive side. Just toss the grenade straight over this building in front of you, kind of aiming towards that middle arch. And what that's going to do is it's going to land right in front of open. A lot of the time it doesn't kill the person that it hits, but what it does do is it gives you information that they're setting up a defense from that open arch. And if you or a teammate is pushing, it's going to give you an advantage in that fight because they're already going to be weak. Let's get into the spawn breakdowns. For control, on the defensive side, if you have any presence at all around A, then the other team is going to be spawning in that top right corner. What typically happens then is that they're either going to try to hit B or they're going to attack A from the flank. So once you shut down a push on A, you need to be very ready for an attack from mid-cross or through maps. One strategy that I consistently see used in the most dominant defensive wins in the CDL is get at least one person set up at every entrance to that back courtyard. Talking about big arch, top maps, and gate. If you do that, you're basically going to set them up in the blender and it's going to be easy to read where they're trying to go, and you're probably going to get at least one or two picks as they try to escape that courtyard area. I've seen times where CDL teams have trapped the other team back in that courtyard and they've just never gotten out. When you're defending B on defense, I think the best setup to have is just get an AR on those back steps and then have one or two SMG players operating around those double doors and the two arches. Then you can keep them guessing as to where those SMG players are going to be, which corner they're going to be sitting in, and the AR player can give you callouts for where they're coming from and provide covering fire, obviously. Then you can also have your other AR player just working the flank, making sure that they're not going to surprise your team from that back spawn area. Looking over at the offensive side, when you're going for A, you're probably going to find yourself spawning in that top right corner like I mentioned. That's okay. What you want to try to do is close in on that bottom right corner from mid-cross, top maps, and gate all at the same time. Sometimes you can make that exciting play for B and it can work, but more often than not, you're just going to throw away lives because they're going to be able to shut that down from any direction. I think it's better to make a slow and concerted effort to get control of that A corner and then move on to B. When you're actually taking a pretty common setup that I see is just have one person in that truck so that they're watching the attack from the left side, and then one person just like prone in that bottom right corner so that they can watch any attacks directly from the spawn. You can also have an SMG player maybe up against the corner of the art building so that you can use those boxes to kind of peek from any direction they might be coming from. Top maps is also a big vantage point for ARs when you're taking A. From there, you can watch double windows or you can watch the flank from B. You can also potentially keep an eye on people trying to dive the point from mid-cross. When you do move on to taking B as the offensive team and you actually get a presence around the point, what that's going to do is it's going to force the other team to spawn in that bottom area. That's nice, obviously, because they're spawning a little further away, but what it means is that they're going to be able to come from pretty much any direction. Whether they go left, right, or straight through the building, it's going to be the same amount of time pretty much to get to the point. And so you really have to be ready from all angles. When you're stacking B, I recommend doing the same thing that I recommended on defense. Use those corners with your SMG players and just keep them guessing at which corner you're going to be in each time they try to break your hold. Definitely make sure that you have an AR player watching those back steps so that they don't get free angles on you guys as you're moving around. Let's jump over to the spawns for Hardpoint. Like a lot of maps, P1 is very much about just securing the spawns for P2 and maybe getting some time while you're at it. Like I said, if you're an SMG player and you're spawning with Cortac, you probably want to jump from that top maps building and try to get across that middle area as soon as possible so that you can start causing havoc in the other spawns and maybe try to flip them out for P2. In general, P1, it's very much about controlling that mid-cross sight line, whether you're doing that from the boxes on point, from top maps, or even from over on stables, trying to watch that top single window in that bottom maps area. You just want to make sure that you're not getting snuck up on through mid. P2 is the first perimeter point, and it can definitely be quite a money hill. You want to secure those bottom left spawns so that you're spawning as close to a line of sight on the point as possible, that back steps area in particular. You definitely want to keep at least one person, probably an AR, in that back area in order to block the other team from spawning there and catch anyone that's trying to flank around. Other than that, it's a pretty flexible point, honestly. There's so much room to maneuver around it that a lot of the time it's just easiest to post 3 people up on the point and watch the different entrances, like I mentioned with control, kind of switching it up every time you beat a push. Rotating over to P3, you want to think about that lower half of the map. The right side team is more than likely going to have control of that top middle blacksmith area, so you want to be careful of mid-cross and maps as you're moving over to the new spawns. P3 is the second perimeter point on this map. You obviously want those bottom right spawns because you spawn really close to the point, and it's super difficult for the left side team to get in going straight through that big arch on top. With that said, you always want someone in that bottom right corner, either up on the balcony or down below in the courtyard so that you can catch any attempt by the other team to try to push through gate or top maps and flip you guys out. You definitely want to have an AR sitting on this point, as I mentioned earlier, so that you can use that statue as cover and just pre-aim the big arch entrance. Doing that, there's almost no way they can get through. To set up the rotations over to P4, you definitely want to try to traverse that lower half of the map because stables and big arch is going to be an absolute war zone on this point. Moving on to P4, you are going to want the left side spawns for this point, not only because they're generally closer, but also because you can sit up on top rails with an AR and make it almost impossible for the other team to push through bottom arch. Just be aware that the spawns do flip really quickly on this point, so you want to try to have someone further back to block that from happening. If you're stuck on that right side, try to at least have one person alive in the middle of the map, because as soon as everyone on your team dies, you're all pretty much guaranteed to spawn all the way in that bottom right corner next to circle. Obviously, sometimes you can't help getting team killed, but if one person can survive in the middle of the map, the rest of your team is going to get much closer spawns, and you'll be able to make another push much faster and probably from better angles because you're going to be closer. You even have a chance of getting those back spawns if the other team is pushed up too far. Finally, looking at P5. You might look at it and think that those right side spawns are going to be better because they're a little bit closer, but honestly, I've found that the left side team typically has a lot more success on this point. I think the reason for that is because sure, you can spawn in that top right corner and you're super close to the point, but then you have to traverse through that big arch area. And that is, just like on P3, pretty much a war zone on this point. There's a million different places that you can get shot from coming through that big arch. And so a lot of the time that team is going to have to go through top maps or even all the way around through gate. So at the end of the day, you typically end up having to go further if you're on that right side team. It's also just nice to have those left side spawns because your AR players can get easy angles on almost any part of the point by peeking from that P2 area. So even if you can't get time, you can at least keep the other team off of the point. That's it for this breakdown. Remember, as always, to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any thoughts. And next up is going to be El Asilo, the final map breakdown. Once I do that, I'll revisit the old map breakdowns and cover the information that I didn't have in the original ones. Till then, good luck out there.